I have been using the iPhone 17 Pro Max for almost 300 days now, which gives me a very grounded perspective on whether Apple's most expensive flagship still holds its ground. To give you some context on my day-to-day workflow, this entire video, like almost every piece of content on my channel, was actually filmed directly on this iPhone 17 Pro Max and edited using my M5 iPad Pro. Throughout this past year, I have taken this device with me on long travels, relied on it to shoot high-production videos, managed my entire business workflow, and consumed endless hours of entertainment. When you live with a smartphone for this length of time, you start to notice all those tiny, nuanced details that are completely impossible to spot during a quick hands-on session at a launch event. A phone can look like an absolute masterpiece on day one when it is sitting pristine under bright store lights, but the real test is whether it still feels special, reliable, and delightful almost a full year down the road. After using the 17 Pro Max back-to-back alongside the ultra-sleek iPhone Air, I have accumulated a ton of thoughts regarding how Apple's vision for the high-end mobile experience has evolved. We are going to break down everything from the controversial industrial design choices, the gorgeous display, and raw real-world performance to the triple camera system, the long-term battery health, and ultimately, whether this is still the exact device I would advise you to buy today. So, without any further delay, let us jump straight into the full breakdown. When I first unboxed the iPhone 17 Pro Max nearly 10 months ago, the immediate sensation was that Apple had moved away from making a piece of delicate luxury jewelry and instead crafted something deeply utilitarian, bold, and unapologetic. Sitting front and center is that massive 6.9-inch screen, which remains the absolute largest display real estate Apple has ever put on a smartphone. Taking this device in hand requires a bit of physical readjustment, particularly if you are transitioning from a smaller standard model, but there is an undeniable magic to having the biggest digital canvas Apple currently makes. Naturally, that huge form factor hierarchy might shift once the long-rumored foldable iPhone finally becomes a reality, but for now, that remains exciting wishful thinking rather than something we can actually buy. One of the biggest philosophical and physical shifts Apple introduced with this generation was moving away from the titanium frame back to a refined aluminum unibody construction. When Apple first announced that change on stage, I, along with a lot of tech enthusiasts, felt a little skeptical because titanium had been hyped up as the ultimate premium selling point on previous Pro generations. However, after actually living, working, and traveling with this aluminum unibody build every day, my perspective has softened. While I still have a slight personal soft spot for the classic tactical feel of titanium, this aluminum chassis feels remarkably dense, structured, and solid in the hand. It keeps the overall weight manageable given the massive dimensions, and when paired with the newest formulation of ceramic shield on both the front and the back, the phone has weathered nearly 300 days of heavy real-world use with virtually no noticeable wear and tear. Visually, the most polarizing element of this entire generation remains the full-width camera plateau extending across the upper back of the device. When initial leaked renders and launch photos hit the internet, I was not entirely sold on the aesthetic because it represented such a drastic, sudden departure from the iconic square camera bump we had grown accustomed to for years. It felt jarring simply because it was so different, but after having this phone on my desk and in my hands for months, my opinion has completely flipped. The sweeping camera plateau actually gives the Pro series a distinctly bold visual identity that feels intentionally engineered rather than tacked on. In fact, whenever I pick up older Pro models now with their offset corner camera modules, they suddenly look visually dated and asymmetrical by comparison. To put this design into proper context, it helps to compare it directly to the premium iPhone Air. The iPhone Air is a mesmerizing piece of technology because it feels futuristic, impossibly thin, and astonishingly light in your hands, effortlessly disappearing into your pocket. The Pro Max, on the other hand, presents a totally different physical proposition. You feel its weight, you are constantly aware of its footprint, and even after 300 days of daily muscle memory, this remains strictly a two-handed device. If your personal priority is a sleek, ultra-portable smartphone experience that you barely notice carrying around, the Pro Max is definitely not going to be your tool of choice. But if you want the ultimate canvas, the biggest battery available, and an uncompromised mobile powerhouse, this heavy-duty hardware form factor becomes completely worth the trade-off. That brings us directly to what I consider the single compelling reason most people gravitate toward this giant device in the first place, which is the phenomenal display experience. I can say without exaggeration that even after nearly 10 months of daily use, this screen still puts a genuine smile on my face every single time I swipe to unlock it. The 6.9-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel is easily one of the finest mobile screens Apple has ever manufactured for consumer use. You get the ultra-fluid promotion technology with adaptive refresh rates going up to 120 Hz, full support for HDR10 and Dolby Vision, and an absurdly bright peak output that scales up to 3000 nits when you are standing outside under direct sunlight. Setting raw spec sheets aside, what truly matters is how those numbers translate into your daily interactions. Whether I am typing out long emails, catching up on YouTube subscriptions, scrolling endlessly through social media feeds, or reading long-form technical articles, the visual clarity remains utterly top-tier. The color calibration hits that perfect sweet spot where images look vibrant, punchy, and lifelike without suffering from the unnatural, oversaturated look you often see on competing displays. Deep blacks are truly ink-like thanks to the OLED panel, viewing angles remain flawless even at extreme tilt, and I have never once caught myself squinting or struggling to view content while outdoors in intense daylight. For media consumption, video playback, and framing shots, this vast, immersive display makes returning to any smaller smartphone screen feel like a massive downgrade. Moving on to performance, this is honestly going to be one of the briefest aspects of my long-term analysis simply because raw speed has reached a point where it is no longer something you actively think about. Driven by Apple's silicon, the A19 Pro chip paired with 12 GB of unified RAM ensures that the phone operates at a baseline of blistering speed. But the reality of modern flagship smartphones is that almost every current generation device feels extraordinarily fast for standard everyday operations. Whether you are daily driving a standard iPhone, an iPhone Air, or this top-of-the-line Pro Max, basic operating system tasks feel completely instant across the board. Launching heavy applications, switching rapidly between dozens of open tasks, browsing media-heavy websites, sending messages, and capturing quick snapshots all happen without a single millisecond of lag. Therefore, if you are planning to upgrade from a device that is only a year or two old, you should not expect raw app opening speeds alone to completely mind-blow you. Where that immense underlying silicon performance actually reveals itself is during sustained, heavy processing workflows, such as rendering multi-track high-resolution video files or pushing demanding graphical settings in modern mobile games. To sustain that level of performance without throttling, Apple introduced a new internal vapor chamber cooling system inside this chassis, and after nearly a year of torture testing it, I can confirm it makes a huge practical difference. The phone will naturally still generate heat during prolonged high-load sessions, which is basic physics, but compared directly to my thermal experiences with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, heat dissipation is vastly improved. On older generations, filming long video takes outdoors or operating the phone while fast charging would often cause the device to get uncomfortably hot and dim the screen, whereas the 17 Pro Max manages thermal regulation so efficiently that uncomfortable overheating has virtually ceased to be an issue during my heavy filming routines. Where this device truly earns its keep for content creators like myself is in the triple camera array. Having all three rear camera sensors upgraded to 48-megapixel resolution brings a newfound level of uniform detail and consistency across your focal lengths. The standout hardware evolution for my personal workflow has been the refined telephoto module, which offers up to 8 times optical quality reach. This enhanced optical capability allows you to capture tight, compression-heavy shots and distant architectural details that were simply impossible to achieve cleanly on older hardware. The level of resolves detail, microcontrast, and sharpness in these zoomed-in captures is genuinely impressive, remaining clean and usable rather than looking like an artificial pixelated mess. Beyond the zoom, general photo output across all lenses exhibits magnificent dynamic range, natural skin tones, and subtle color processing that avoids artificial vibrancy. Low-light performance is equally reliable, with night mode kicking in quickly and cleanly thanks to the physically larger sensors gathering ambient light effortlessly. However, as strong as the photo capabilities are, video recording is where Apple continues to completely dominate the industry and why this phone remains my primary production camera. Armed with internal recording options for ProRes, flat Apple log profiles, cinematic mode, spatial video capture, and buttery smooth 4K Dolby Vision at 120 frames per second, the technical ceiling is absurdly high. Yet the real beauty of the system is its sheer predictability and consistency. When you hit record, you know precisely how the sensor will respond, as autofocus tracking is rock solid, exposure adjustments transition smoothly, color science matches across all three lenses, and handheld stabilization remains industry-leading. Integrating these camera files directly into a Final Cut Pro workflow on my Mac or iPad feels completely seamless, allowing me to shoot, edit, and publish channel content without touching a traditional dedicated mirrorless camera system. Even the front-facing camera deserves high praise, as its upgraded 18-megapixel sensor paired with center stage support delivers pin-sharp video calls and flawless vlog footage, making it easily one of the most capable front-facing cameras on any modern mobile device. Another critical factor that cannot be evaluated in a quick 2-day initial review is long-term battery endurance, because every brand new phone lasts long when its battery chemistry is fresh out of the box. But after nearly 300 days, hundreds of charge cycles, and an intense amount of daily screen-on time, the battery performance on the 17 Pro Max remains one of its absolute greatest triumphs. Thanks to the massive physical footprint accommodating a high-capacity internal cell, combined with the power efficiency gains of the A19 Pro silicon, this device is a true single-charge engine. On a typical heavy workday filled with managing emails, shooting video clips, scrolling social platforms, editing images, and streaming audio, I consistently reach the end of the night around 11 p.m. with roughly 20% battery capacity left to spare. Naturally, battery drain will scale depending on your individual usage patterns, so if you spend your entire afternoon maxing out graphic settings in games or recording hours of continuous high bitrate video, you will deplete the cell faster. But for heavy professional workflows, this phone provides total peace of mind, completely eliminating the anxiety of needing a portable power bank during long travel days. This stellar battery life is actually the primary reason I have not migrated over to the ultra-thin iPhone Air as my primary daily driver, because as fascinating as the Air's design is, the physical laws of battery size mean the Pro Max holds a massive real-world endurance advantage. Beyond the battery, the long-term connectivity suite has proven utterly bulletproof over my months of ownership, with high-speed USB-C transfer speeds, Wi-Fi 7 stability, Bluetooth 6 connectivity, Thread support, ultra-wideband chip updates, and dual eSIM performance working together flawlessly without a single glitch. Bringing this entire 300-day journey to a conclusion, the overarching question is whether I still wholeheartedly recommend purchasing the iPhone 17 Pro Max today. The short answer is a resounding yes, but it comes with a very specific, deliberate asterisk. Apple has intentionally designed its modern iPhone lineup so that the Pro Max is no longer simply a slightly nicer everyday phone for the average consumer, but rather a specialized precision tool engineered for power users. It is explicitly built for individuals who demand the absolute peak of mobile camera performance, the largest display canvas available, class-leading battery longevity, and an advanced suite of professional creative tools. If you are a content creator, a mobile filmmaker, a heavy traveler, a dedicated mobile gamer, or someone who simply wants the absolute top-spec device to keep for many years, investing in the 17 Pro Max makes complete sense because it will effortlessly handle everything you throw at it. On the flip side, if your daily smartphone needs revolve primarily around light messaging, casual web browsing, standard social media checking, and taking basic family photos, purchasing this giant Pro Max is likely complete overkill for your lifestyle. For casual users, devices like the standard iPhone models, the sleek iPhone Air, or the smaller Pro variant offer far better ergonomic comfort and value without making you pay for high-end production features you might never tap into. Apple has thoughtfully structured their current lineup so there is a tailored device for every type of user, but if your work or passion aligns with high-end creation and power usage, the iPhone 17 Pro Max remains an absolute champion that continues to deliver excellence long after the initial launch excitement has faded.